So my journey began somewhere floating in space in a galaxy far, far away, playing with guns whilst completely off my head on homebrew moonshine. You see, we had a distinguished guest on board who we were playing Spin the Bottle with. He was a spaceman under the employment of my ex-boss, Mr. Serrano. Apparently, there was an enormous bounty out on our heads for turning against him, and everyone in the solar system was coming to collect it. My best mate, Stinky Nuts McGee, gave me his new gun and told me to try it out, so I was like, yeah boy! And I proceeded to fake shoot him in the penis 3 times before actually shooting the bottle off his head. Then, satisfied, I waved goodbye and kicked him out of the airlock as I watched his head slowly expand and explode in the middle of deep space. Our other best mate, Dr. turned up looking to join our slumber party, so we went to let him in, but the door was busted. So I did my daily hip thrusters to make sure I was nice and limber for the chaos that was certainly about to ensue. Then finally went through the door and tried to pat him on the head, but was rejected. It was at that moment that I was alerted, much to my surprise, that the super ship, the Ulysses, had just appeared on our radar, so I sprinted to the control deck to organize an assault. Unfortunately, however, I was absolutely shite-faced drunk. Then, despite my first mate's earnest recommendation that I rethink my harebrained plan, I insisted that we had what it took to blow up a ship 500 million times bigger than ours. And so I manned the thingamajig and flew my ship with my entire crew in it directly towards certain death at breakneck speeds. And I mean, for a while there, things were going really well. Like right up until the point when they weren't, but I was no quitter, and so with my entire crew dead or unconscious around me, I crawled my way to the yellow death lever that would propel my explosive-laden ship at hyperdrive speeds directly through the landing bay of the Ulysses, almost certainly guaranteeing total annihilation of the both of us. Perfection. Somehow, however, we managed to blast straight through the other side of the ship and went hurtling towards a nearby planet where we very carefully landed our vessel, like the true tactical testicles that we are. Now, I guess the slight ding that I took to my head caused me to have a little flashback that took me back to that cool day many weeks ago when me and me mates took a stroll down the facade of a building with anti-grav boots on. It was mad cool. And let me tell you, just between you and me, the coolest part was the part where we smashed through a window and shot some dude in the head who was just quietly drawing dicks on Microsoft Paint, minding his own business. Anyway, while our death squad was assessing his artwork on his PC, we discovered a conspiracy theory that revealed that all this time the people we had been taking down were actually that had done nothing to anybody ever besides. So I immediately contacted my ex-boss, who was my boss at the time, on my shoe phone and demanded answers. But all he told us was that Taco Bell was the best and that we could all eat a ginormous bag of dicks. Blind with rage, I forgot that holograms were not people, and so I unloaded my assault rifle directly into it, alerting everyone in the building to the fact that we were there. It was okay though, because as the old saying goes, nobody can notice if there's nobody to notice. And what that means is that we killed everybody, except that one guy who we didn't kill, and he was just about to kill Nightwing, but I took a mad dive and took a bullet for him because I am a real man. Satisfied with my time unconscious, I consciously became conscious again unconsciously, only to find my ship in absolute tatters. Apparently my drunken idea to try and blow up the Death Star with my little rocket and then hyperspeeding straight through the middle of it, causing it to explode, didn't go exactly according to plan. I picked myself up and headed to the command deck thing to see how my friends were going, and fortunately they were all doing well, except for my mate who seemingly bumped his noggin during the crash, but I squished his brain back in for him, so it was all good. And then Cranky Pants McGee picked him up to carry him back to his bed as he seemed to be a little bit hungover. Dr. Donuts told us that he wasn't actually hungover, but was about to die from life-threatening injuries, and that his brain was on the floor. The only way we could save him, however, was to find an energy cell and use it to fuse him to the ship's main computer. So we sprinted off to find an energy cell somewhere. Fortunately, there was a very conveniently placed slippery dip in the side of the ship that I used to slide my way down to the sand pit below. And let me tell you, the locals were really friendly guys, maybe a little bit too friendly. So I booted one of them into the air and shot his head off and accidentally whacked the other down a hole to the abyss below. Anyway, as we move further through the desert on our quest to find a AA battery, we encountered one of Serrano's highest-ranking elite action men, a living legend amongst those that live to tell the tales of his murderous exploits. Watching him bust caps and flick his laser whippy thing around made me question my masculinity. He was a real man. But then a car fell on him. But being a cheap bastard, I didn't want to put his laser whippy thing to waste, so I ripped it off his severed arm and I plonked it onto me own. Electricity immediately began coursing through my veins and I was pretty sure I was having a heart attack. I then used my newfound laser powers to create roads where roads did not exist, and I lassoed people into electrified burning barbed wire, killing them almost instantly, but very slowly and instantly. Then I shot their heads off. Pew pew. Anyway, apparently during all of this killing, I collected a power core thingy, so I returned to my busted up ship to shove it up my dead crewmates. But then a mutant gangster jumped through the air vent and killed the doc. And busted a bunch of camps in me other mate, Donkey Kong Ding Dong Dingaling. But before he died, he picked up some explosives and asked me to shoot him. So I gladly obliged. He didn't even need to ask me twice. I blew him up along with everyone in the vicinity, including myself. But I was luckier than I should have been, and somehow I did not die. And also somehow, my dead mate Robo-Dong survived too, and he had been blown outside right next to me. We immediately made it our mission to find our ex-boss Serrano and make him pay for saying Taco Bell was the best. In the distance, there was a massive, grotesque steel oil rig looking thing that I for some reason knew I needed to get to the top of, but not before blowing up everything that would blow up in the nearby area. In a nearby cave, we found a cool looking sewer thing that seemed to slide all the way down to the bottom, so I launched myself into the human filth only to find a law-abiding citizen taking an innocent piss at the bottom. And it was also around this time that I found a sexy shotgun just casually being sexy in a sexy crate somewhere that was sexy. And let me tell you, the way that shotty blew bad dudes to bits was also quite sexy, but nowhere near as sexy as the demountable minigun I stumbled across. Oh baby, that thing was spicy, very nicey. The way it shot down them gyrocopters was nothing short of chef's kiss. It was around this time that me robot friend was feeling frisky and he decided to penetrate the dam's engine deeply. This resulted in the whole place blowing up, but we found a little train carriage thing on some rails, so we decided to bugger off out of there before we got blown to smithereens for the third time since the video started. But there was a problem. The ginormous heat-seeking wheel thingy was spinning out of control and coming straight for us at breakneck speeds. Trying to escape 50 billion tons of twisted metal on a little rail cart thing was nothing short of exhilarating. Though it did become a little bit less exhilarating when the giant wheel took out the bridge in front of us, giving us absolutely nowhere to go but down. We eventually woke up in some dank cavern with a dude's hand, which is always a pretty good sign that things ahead are going to be just dandy. And they were. We found a bunch of squishy looking giant dinosaur eggs and naturally decided to gratuitously scramble all of them. And that turned out to be a pretty bad idea. You see, they belonged to a mutant alien dinosaur who was somewhat pissed off at the fact that we football kicked all her relatives into oblivion, and then she continued to chase us up the cave thingy with the worst of intentions. But as luck would have it, there was a little gyrocopter waiting for us at the edge of the dead-end cliff that looked like it just might be able to carry us to freedom, or to a rocky death down below. Both were good options. As we tried to fly away, the giant beast kept pursuing us, smashing mountains and all sorts of crap in its wake. But we ran out of petrol and decided to stop flying and start swimming. So we climbed out of the water onto the land and immediately knew where to go because there was a giant blue circle floating in the sky with numbers on it. When we finally got there though, we realized it was a really swanky hotel resort for rich off-worlders that wanted to experience the best this planet had to offer. Beautiful place, but the hotel staff looked a little bit off. I don't know what it was. Maybe they were born with it, or maybe it was meth. But being pretty hungry, I decided to go straight to their Michelin star restaurant for a nice succulent intergalactic alien meal, and to also inspect the kitchen while I was there to make sure it was meeting the strict Michelin hygiene standards. As you can see, it was. And then we found a huge metal door with a whole bunch of banging going on the other side. So we opened it up, and it was none other than my angry math teacher, Trishka, beating the crap out of one of the hotel staff. I don't know what he did. It was at that moment that we decided to combine our forces and take on Serrano together because he had put a hit out on her father and had him killed. What she didn't know, though, was the plot twist, and that was that we were the ones that did it. And what we didn't know was that he was the Microsoft paid dick guy. Anyway, as we moved further through the hotel, we came to the air conditioning unit, which was pretty big, but because I'm an idiot, I started ripping it to pieces, and then naturally, the entire thing fell apart. Now, this would have been great to behold if you were maybe on the mountain, you know, like on the other side of the lake, but for me, he was at the top of it. It was a little bit but again, we managed to survive the landing and then decided to head to the Brotherhood of Steel HQ, but unfortunately, they were not recruiting. Now, the monorail thingy parked at the platform looked like it might still be functioning, so we hopped on board and decided to ride that son of a gun to wherever the hell it would take us. The sad reality, however, is that if a bunch of horny mutants jump on your monorail, the only place it is taking you is to the ground down below. So I ripped out me boom cannon thingy and I blew him to pieces with a little bit of good old-fashioned bang bang banga banga boom boom. And whilst doing said bang bang banga banga boom boom, a mutant on roids clambered over the railing, clearly looking for some biffo, so I gave him some biffo, straight into a helicopter's propeller. But then shortly after, we found an even bigger one, and that's when I knew I done goofed. Mostly because it was the same creature whose eggs I'd scrambled earlier in the cave. Now, this thing was supposedly called a hecaton, and I was clearly in a hecaton of trouble. This thing was out for revenge, and I just didn't have the firepower to detach its head from its body. But I was determined to find it no matter what it took. And so I sprinted to the nearest elevator and rode that thing to the top of the nearby skyscraper, assuming that there just might be a helicopter with a minigun waiting for me at the top. And as expected, there was a helicopter with a minigun waiting there for me, just like I thought it would be. Magic. So I took to the skies, blowing up everything I could before I finally moved on to Big Cranky. Fortunately, Big Cranky had a really bad case of the old dandruffs going on the back of its head, so I kept attacking that dandruff with minigun bullets until its head finally fell off. And that was the moment that I realized that the stupid idiot I was trying to kill all this time, Serrano, was just chilling there on the roof in a crashed escape pod. He promised to help me get off world if I escorted him to his spaceship, so I said fine, and together, along with Robo Tin Man, we mowed down anyone and everyone that stood between us and freedom. When we finally got there, though, he said that the door wouldn't open unless I punched in some codes over on the center console while he did some stuff at the door. So being the gullible idiot that I am, I said, okay, mate, only to find out that I'd been double-crossed again by the same guy. So he escaped. And as for me and Coke Can Man, well, we were stuck in a room with an atomic warhead thing that was about to self-detonate. But just as we had come to terms with our fate, the angry math teacher rocked up and said, hey, big boys, follow me. So we followed her, and we made it to Serrano's ship just as he was about to take off. But then a car fell on me head. I woke up just in time, though, and lassoed that drawbridge thingy down just before it closed, bringing it back down and buying us entry onto the ship before it took off. Now, he had super elite looking guards working for him, but I used a cheat code for unlimited ammo and stuff, so I was practically invincible. And then I tossed a bunch of soldiers out of the airlock, which is always a good time. If you ever go out of space, you gotta try it. And then I watched me old mate try and get it on with the ATM machine. Yes, ATM machine that opened the door to Serrano's secret chambers. When we got in, though, we realized that the math teacher had somehow got there before us, and she was about to kill him for putting that hit on her now dead father. But then old mate cracked out his own magic whippy thing and took control of Roboplop, who nearly killed me but had a change of heart just before crushing my esophagus. But then he got killed because he's a stupid idiot. And whilst desperately trying to pick up my gun before he killed me too, he leashed a giant gas canister thingy and threw it at me, but I Ronaldo'd it back at him, then grabbed me gun and started busting caps like I was trying to do a good old-fashioned drive-by from back in the day. Then I lassoed a gas canister myself over to where he was hiding like a coward, and I blew it up, setting him on fire. Then I whipped him onto the massive protruding broken steel rods that were sticking out of the wall, impaling him and ending his career as a professional dickhead. But knowing he had little time left, I ran over over there. And I told him, "You're an ugly donkey and everybody hates you." Then I went and picked up the angry math teacher because I needed to improve my math if I was ever going to get a job anywhere else after this ordeal. Then we hopped in an escape pod and took off moments before the ship we were on and the entire planet itself exploded into a gajillion, bazillion, Brazilian pieces. And let me tell you, it was quite a sight to behold. It filled me with a sense of pride that I'd managed to blow up an entire planet myself, and also that I'd managed to escape despite every weak member of my crew dying along the way. After all, I am a real man.